He played this game hundreds of times, knew every secret, every hidden item, every ending. And then one day, he logs in. No character selection, no warning. He reincarnates as the most useless demon prince, a background character who's guaranteed to die in the battle for the demon throne. So instead of panicking, he rejoices. Worst spawn and best opportunities. He abuses everything he knows, hunts down hidden rewards, builds alliances with key characters, and uses a broken mechanic. Getting attacked equals gaining skills, slowly turning a doomed side character into something the original story never planned for. Some time ago, MC was running down the street. His name is Gong. His parents named him that in the hopes that he would become an influential person. In Korean, his name means main character. He ran into a store and a guy screamed, Gong. The man smiled and said, there he is. Of course, people had made fun of his name since childhood, but he didn't care. He really wants to become the main character. He looked at the guy with displeasure and told him to stop laughing. He asked, is there a game? The guy laughed and said, I put aside for him. A remake of Night Saga Re. It's a story about humans and demons. A game in which he chooses one of two characters, the hero Locke or the heir to the demon king, Zephyr Agnaros, and travels the world completing quests. He completed the game more than 10 times as a child, so he knows all about it. Besides, this is the first game released in VR. After some time, Ingong came home and inserted the flash drive into the helmet. He put on his head and sat in a chair. MC smiled and said that today he would not be long. He would play for about 8 hours. After some time, he opened his eyes and looked around. He asked, is he in the game? It's not the beginning if he hasn't woken up in bed. But who is this character? A voice came from a street. Is he still sleeping? The orc looked inside and told him to come out. Did he forget what he had to do? MC cried out in surprise. The graphics are cool, as if everything was real. The orc asked again, graphics? MC thought, can he communicate? He doesn't remember this in the advertisement. He asked, okay, what's his name? The orc asked, what has he already forgotten? Karak. MC asked, Karak. He walked toward the exit and said, everyone is waiting for him. Prince Shutra, so hurry up. MC said, Shutra. Shut Ignis, the 9th son of the Demon King. He hasn't chosen a hero yet. Why? He waved his hand and said, he needs to open the status window. He looked at the system window and said, there, he should play as Prince Chatroff first. Even a regular NPC has at least 10 points in each stat. What's wrong with him? He's a prince. He'll look at the skills. MC looked at this puzzledly and asked, conquest and main character settings? He thought, do main character settings mean what he thinks? Karak looked into the tent and ordered them to go out. Shitra answered, he's coming. He went outside and looked around and saw several more orcs. He asked Karak, what's going on? It's like a war is starting. Karak told him to go and not talk nonsense. We need to destroy the Crimson Light idiots. MC screamed, what? Karak screamed, this is their first fight. They're starting. Shut scream, stop. Fight. What about the training? So, the Crimson Light Orc tribe created an army to organize a rebellion. Does that mean he needs to deal with the 7th prince and 8th princess? MC asked, are they going to war 10 at a time? Karak answered. He said they were just patrolling today. MC asked again, right? Karak asked, what's wrong with him? He's acting weird. Shutter waved his hand and opened the system window. He thought he knew there was a mini-map. Everything is much more convenient now. He will always keep it open. He said, there's a hidden part here. Is this an event? So, they'll be walking for a long time. Follow him. He knows a shortcut. Karak looked at him puzzled, but everyone followed him. The orcs climbed the stone wall, and MC stopped and looked at the stone doors. Karak asked in surprise, how did he find this place? Is he a mage? MC answered, if only. Karak asked, is he okay? He looks tired. Shatra thought he didn't know the first level was so hard. He said to see if the door would open. Suddenly, he felt a surge of strength and asked, what? The system window reported that his level had increased. MC said, that can't be. He leveled up just by walking. His stats also increased by 2 points plus 2 extra points. It's crazy. Karak turned around and asked, what is he doing? He needs to go. MC replied, yes, he's going. He thought, I don't know what could be there, but at least he's not alone. Besides, the protagonist has plot protection. They went inside and Karak said, apparently, this cave was dug by dwarves. MC asked again, dwarves? He thought they didn't exist. Karak replied, not anymore, but they used to be. Shutter asked, did they all move to the demon realm? Karak replied, I don't know. He'd only heard about them. He looked at the things ahead in surprise, and the orcs rushed toward them and joyfully shouted, treasures! The stupid dwarves left their weapons behind. They need to take everything they can carry. The orcs laughed joyfully and MC walked up to it and looked around. The system windows reported too low a level. Not enough strength, not enough magic, he said. But he'll take it anyway. They'll see how much he can fit in his inventory. MC said, take it. He looked at his inventory and said, you just need to touch it and think. He loudly ordered to run. The orcs turned around when suddenly the wall in front of them broke and stones flew in all directions. Kaichun, the general of the Crimson Light tribe, asked, did they think they wouldn't recognize him? He ordered to kill them. The red orcs rushed to the attack and started hitting the green orcs. MC looked at it and asked, what should he do? Take the kills and get experience? He swung his sword and smashed it on the orc's head. Citra looked at the fragment puzzled, and the orc turned around and growled in displeasure. MC started to run, but tripped over a rock and fell to the ground. The system window reported that he had 1 health point left. He cried out in fear, and the orc swung his hand. MC continued to scream loudly, but Carrick appeared in front of him and shouted, Prince, he needs to run. Shut said, Carrick. He stood up and thought, his hands still shaking. It's just a game. He said he can't. That's enough for today. The system window asked, return to the menu? MC said, it's too realistic and creepy. He looked at the system window and thought, what? Why is there no way out? Does that mean he's stuck here? Kaichin stepped forward and noticing him held out his staff. He swung and MC screamed, no, he can't die. Magic pierced his body and threw him back. He sighed and closed his eyes as his health points dropped to 0. He moved to another space and asked, where is he? He was definitely killed by orcs. Does that mean he died? He saw a bright glow in front of him and a voice said, he is destined to be here to conquer, enslave, and rule. The girl extended her hand to him and MC asked, what? At that moment, the battle in the cave continued. Kaishan smirked and said, who would have thought that there would be so few of them? Are they arrogant or just stupid? There is no time. Let him kill them all. After a while, Shudder opened his eyes and asked, what was that? Awakening. Kaijan asked, is he still alive? The system window reported that he received level 1 telekinesis. MC looked at this in surprise and asked, what? When did he learn that? He saw the subclass and asked, Conqueror Knight. Kaishan screamed, what are they doing? Let them kill them already. Carrick asked, Prince? He ordered the orcs to protect the prince. The prince must not be harmed. Shatra clenched his fist and looked at the system window. He thought, but the Conqueror Knight is not on the list of classes available to a knight. Why then? He stuck the rest of his sword into the ground and thought as if he already knew everything. Spells echoed in his head. He said, the power of conquest shall be the power of a king. Under the royal banner, the orcs' bodies were covered in mana, and the system window reported. Conquest skill under the royal banner level 1 in a limited area. This grants a positive effect to allies. The orcs shouted joyfully. They have become stronger. They need to kill them. They rushed forward and began to attack the red orcs. Kaijan screamed, what the hell? They have become stronger. This is some kind of nonsense. He looked around and asked, is that him? Kaichan ran towards MC and shouted, idiot, make him stop this immediately. Shut looked at him and encouraged Karak. He shot mana towards Kaishan and he screamed, wait a minute. Karak cut off the enemy's head and the red orc saw it and screamed in fear. The orc said they were running away. They mustn't let them get away. The system window reported, the general's merits are attributed to the king. His level has increased. Shatra smiled and asked why his level. Karak looked at his hand and asked, what kind of power is this? He wondered, is it thanks to the prince? After a while, they returned to their camp. MC was sitting in the tent and saying, it's gone. He still couldn't find it. There is no exit button in the menu. Calm down. He needs to calm down. There are 2 options. First, he's stuck in virtual reality. Perhaps there was a bug. Then everything will be fixed in the update. Or it sounds crazy, but this is not a game, but reality, like in novels and comics. He ended up in the game world, or this world is his very real past. NPCs that can change. And most importantly, he looked at his pants and said, no censorship. What if this really is another world? Is he supposed to die here? No, he can't risk that. At least he's not an orc or an ogre. He's a prince now. He was born with a golden spoon in his mouth. Karak entered the tent and asked, Prince, does he have a minute? MC turned around and asked Karak. After a while, he asked why he suddenly asked for a sparring match. Karak replied, he will be his leader. Knowing his skill level will help him prepare. MC asked, is this really necessary? He caught the wooden sword that Karak threw him and told him not to worry. He would try to restrain himself. Shut laughed and told him to look at himself. And this is what he was saying to the prince. He rushed to attack and shouted, if he wants to fight, then he should fight seriously. Karak gripped the sword and thrust it forward. Shut tried to attack him, but only swung the sword nearby. Karak smirked and imagined it like an egg smashing against a stone. He pushed MC away, and he screamed, loudly falling to the ground. Shut grabbed his head, and Kirak asked, is he okay? MC asked, come on, why hit him so hard? The system window reported that basic sword mastery level 1 was obtained. Shatra thought he got sword mastery when his eyes widened and thought right. It's like telekinesis. He gets skills when he gets it. Kirak told him to finish and go their separate ways. MC asked who said it was the end. Kirak looked at him questioningly, and Chatra said he was just getting started. He gripped his sword and charged. Kirak thought he had gotten much better at moving. But why was he so bad at the beginning? His skills couldn't have suddenly improved. He swung his sword and tried to attack MC, but MC quickly dodged. Shut asked, so how is not bad, huh? Kirak, what level is he? Kirak answered that when he checked, he was level 21. MC spoke 21. Well, he'll catch up soon. He looked at the system window where it said he was level 7. Everyone in this world has levels. Not everyone can immediately recognize it like he did. It's necessary to use a level estimation spell. In general, the ability to see stats and improve them is a big advantage. MC pushed off the ground and charged. He landed in front of Kirak and thought he can get stronger. No, he can get stronger much faster than the others. The Demon Arc in the Night Saga tells the story of Zephyr and how he surpassed his siblings and became the Demon King. There are many episodes until the end, but the most important one is the forced event Killing Day. It takes place in the year 517 when Zephyr kills all his siblings to achieve his goal. The key word is all, which means him too. It is now the year 512. He still has a couple of years. He needs to prevent this. The best way is to become stronger than Zephyr. After some time, MC was sitting on a log in the forest, and Kirak came out of the bushes and asked, Prince, what is he doing here? He's been looking for him everywhere. Chatra asked again, what happened? Kirak asked, did he forget that today is a meeting? MC asked again, a meeting? Kirak said, rather everyone is waiting. He looked at him questioningly, and after a while he was already sitting at the table and laughing. He said there early. Chris Moonlight, the 7th prince, asked why he was so polite. They were brothers after all. Caitlin Moonlight, the 8th princess, answered, but this was their first meeting. Chris said, it's okay. Let him call them by their names. Shooter replied, okay. He thought about it. They were the children of Elaine Moonlight, the 4th queen and queen of the Lanthrops. In the game, they were also a lot of trouble. But a year before the assassination, they died at the hands of Zephyr and the other children of the Demon King. And all because of the secret of Caitlin Moonlight's birth. She's a bastard. Caitlin asked why he decided to fight them without a plan. She told him to patrol. MC replied, well, he didn't know they were there. Caitlin asked to take a look. Is he injured anywhere? Chatra looked at her questioningly, and she began to examine him. Caitlin said he was the weakest of them, and he should be careful. MC wondered why she was so worried. When were the Demon King's children so close? Chris said, oh my, if he takes such a risk again, he'll get a reprimand. MC smiled and replied, okay. He wondered what was going on. Are they kind? There are a lot of mana users among lycanthropes, probably because of the abundance of life force. If he gains skills in the same way, maybe he can learn to use mana like that too. Shutter said he had a request for them. Can they hit him with aura? They looked at him puzzled and asked, what? After a while, the orcs were fighting each other. The red orcs were screaming loudly and trying to attack. The monster turned around and hit another one and then ordered to kill them. Whoever kills the most will receive a reward. MC appeared in another space again and saw the girl. He said she. He looked around and asked, who are they? He doesn't remember such characters. The girl appeared behind him and a bright glow illuminated him. Shut opened his eyes while lying on the bed. He grabbed his head and asked, was it a dream? Kara came up to him and asked, did he wake up? MC screamed in fear. He scared him. Karak replied, I think he's fine. Why did he ask the princess to hit him? He wed, and now let him see what happened. The system window reported that he received a level 1 aura. Shatra said, he feels the aura. Karak asked, did he awaken the aura when he was hit with it? MC answered, something like that. Karak asked, is that why the energy awakened in him when he fought the flames of crimson light? MC answered, yes. Karak answered, I see. Shatra asked, did anything happen while he was sleeping? Karak answered, of course. The main forces defeated the Crimson Light tribe. MC asked again, the main forces? He thought Chris, Caitlin, and he were the only ones who could destroy the Crimson Light tribe. Karak replied, that can't be. He knows how big this tribe is. Shooter asked, then who was in command? Karak replied, General Bandao. MC asked what? Bandao? General Bandao? He's one of the strongest here. That's why he really liked him when he played for Zephyr. Wait, this could be his chance. Bandao becomes Zephyr's subject in 515. He doesn't obey him yet, which means he can take him first. He knows everything he needs to know about him. what rewards he likes, his favorite food, his talents, but the main thing that will lure him to him is winning a duel. If he knows that much, he can get Bandal as a subordinate before Zephyr. He needs to try. Besides, there's plenty of time, so Bandal, he will be his. After a while, a shout was heard in the Caitlyn camp. What? Chris shouted. Did he reach the first level of aura in a day? MC thought. Well, of course, he put all the points into aura. It wasn't a hasty decision. Aura en ou l'habilité. It's better than telekinesis. Chris said it's impossible. Is it because he's a Gandharva? Shut. Can he create underground maps? MC asked again. Underground maps? He thought no, but he has a mini-map. He said it's simple. Can he give me a pencil and a piece of paper? After a while, Chris said this is incredible. This is more of his. Shut. He's a genius. MC laughed, and Caitlyn said, all those guys from the Crimson Light are dead. The tribe doesn't know that they know about their underground tunnels. Chris said it might be possible to set up an ambush for them. Since it came to that, he wanted to ask him one more thing. Shut. He looked at him questioningly, and after a while, Carrick asked, does that mean they need to patrol the area again? MC replied, there's no choice. He's the youngest in the family. Carrick said, it's good that they have reinforcements. Shutter replied, it's all thanks to their hard work. Carrick laughed lightly and said, exactly. Suddenly they stopped, and MC asked, sister, what's with the cloak? She put her finger to her lips to keep him quiet. She said she was secretly following him just in case if he was in danger, she would intervene. She needed his achievements. Shooter wondered, would she support him? Was she crazy? He asked again. Achievement. The girl said she was very pleased. She was Sarah the adjutant. MC responded reciprocating. She said they would cover him. No need to worry. Shooter replied, okay. After a while, they entered the cave and MC asked why the caves were empty. Carrick replied, who leaves valuables? Apparently, the dwarfs took everything. Shut asked, but what about the weapons they found last time? Carrick replied, apparently, they didn't consider them valuable. MC said apparently they walked on, and Carrick said Prince he thinks someone is coming. Shutter replied, yes he hears it too. He looked at his mini-map and said it looks like them. He opened his inventory and thought he took the flash spell just in case. In this he took it out and ordered Carrick to tell everyone to close their eyes on command. Carrick looked at him questioningly and huge spiders crawled towards them. Stone spiders are monsters that often appear in caves. They live in dozens. Their poison paralyzes. MC ordered everyone to close their eyes. He threw the potion into the air and it exploded. A bright glow illuminated the cave and the creatures squealed loudly. Sutra thought, stone-owned spiders are helpless in the light because they live in the darkness. He ordered to attack to kill the spiders. The orcs rushed into battle and began to attack the spiders. MC stood behind him thinking, stone spiders hunt in groups and each group needs a leader. MC shouted, Karak, follow him. They'll deal with the leader. Karak replied, okay, ran forward and stopped in front of a huge monster. Karak screamed loudly and swung his axe. He quickly began attacking the creature, then widened his eyes in surprise. He cried out, what? The shell is so strong, MC said. Exactly. He'd completely forgotten. He thought the axe wouldn't penetrate the exoskeleton. It's vulnerable to fire, but he can't use magic yet. The creature growled and opened its huge, toothy mouth. Shut ordered Carrick to use fire. Carrick asked again, but where would he get fire? At that moment, a cry rang out, Shutra, let him raise his sword. Bright fiery mana infused his sword, and he joyfully asked, magic? Caitlyn asked, is that enough? MC cried out, sister. The creature extended its sharp paw toward him, and Shutra frowned and rushed into battle. He used a flaming blade and attacked the spider. He became covered in mana, and the system window reported that his level had increased. The character window opened in front of him, and Shutra joyfully said level 9. Caitlyn asked Shutra, how is he? The other world? MC replied, it is. It's some kind of blessing. Such things happen. No need to worry. Caitlyn asked, blessings? Is he a Gondar? Shooter replied, yes, from a Gandharva. She asked, what's more important? Has he fought these creatures before? He has great reflexes. MC replied, well, he just read about them. That's all. He thought about it. He's fought them many times. Of course, he knows everything about them. Carrick pointed his finger forward and told the prince to look. MC turned around and Carrick said, he thinks there's some kind of door there. They opened a little and went inside. MC looked surprised and asked, is this a city portal? Carrick asked, does he know what this is? Shut replied, not exactly, but he has an idea. He looked around and thought, he thinks these are dwarven patterns. He never saw such patterns while playing as Zephyr, but he encountered this a couple of times while playing as the hero. He thinks if you pour mana into it, it will activate. MC turned around and said, maybe this is a portal. Caitlin removed the hood from her head and asked again. A portal. Sarah said, judging by the appearance, the prince might be right. Caitlin asked, how do I know where this leads? Sarah replied, I need to look for some inscriptions. Korik approached the sign and told the prince to come here. He thought he saw something engraved here. MC looked at him thoughtfully and approached with Caitlin. She said, these were clearly not demonic writings. They looked like dwarven letters. Korik asked if she could read them. Caitlin spread her hands and asked why she knew dwarven, and she apologized she didn't know either. MC said portal number 2, the Gishkov Mountains, and it connected to portal number 3. MC looked at it questioningly and asked what he could read dwarven. The system window reported that he had acquired the skilled dwarven language level 1. He thought what? He wondered, can he learn languages like that too? Korik asked Prince, can he read this? Shot answered apparently yes. Caitlin asked since when does he know dwarven? Sarah asked what is written below. MC said he thinks it activates if you fill it with mana. He turned around and asked Caitlin could she pour some in. She asked again why her and not him. MC replied, well, he hasn't quite gotten the hang of it yet. He thought he doesn't know how to use magic at all. Caitlin replied, okay. She walked up to the portal and poured mana into it. It glowed brightly and created a hologram. Someone asked, are these the Gish Mountains? This point is their location, and this one is portal number 3. Does that mean there are dwarven tunnels there too? That's quite possible. Korik asked, is that good? After all, the main forces of the Crimson Flame are located just in front of these mountains. Shooter replied, exactly. That way, they can hit them from behind. He suggested going back. He needs to discuss everything with his brother. Everyone replied, okay. After a while, a loud scream was heard in the camp. Who would have thought that there was a portal in such a place? Shut. He's incredible. MC replied, no, just Chris asked him to tell him if he suddenly needed anything. He would help if it was in his power. Shut replied, oh well. Chris said no. As the leader and his older brother, he wanted to reward him. He would be offended if he refused. MC smiled and asked, is it okay if it's something unreasonable? Chris asked again, unreasonable? Now he was even more curious. Shutter asked if he could teach him the beast god's hand-to-hand combat art. Chris widened his eyes in surprise and asked, what? Because of Shutra's level, he can't properly wield weapons, but techniques are different. The beast god's hand-to-hand combat art is a martial art that has been passed down in the royal family of Lionthroat from generation to generation. In short, it's a powerful S-rank martial art. He knows it's a strange request. He'll understand if he refuses. MC folded his arms and asked, is that too difficult? Okay, he thought so right away. Chris replied, okay, he'll teach him. Of course, he can't teach him secret techniques. MC happily asked, really? Chris replied, but he'll at least teach him so what is he okay with it? Why is he silent? Does he disagree? Shut shouted joyfully. No, everything is great. Chris asked, Shutra, can he consider him a brother now? MC asked again, brother? He thought, brother, it's a very important word. Okay, he doesn't see anything wrong. He even likes it. He shook his hand and said yes. He looked at Chris and Caitlin and mentally suggested that they work together. The system window reported an alliance was created with Chris Moonlight and Caitlin Moonlight. Alliance status normal. Sometime later in the Crimson Light Tribe camp, an orc said she wouldn't have come here if she'd originally intended to target this place. Princess, what brought her here? The 6th Princess Felicia Doomblade was sitting bound on the ground. At that moment, Shutra looked at the system window and said, Charisma. When we first gained a level, all stats increased by 2. But at some point, Charisma started increasing by only 1. Why is that? In the original, Charisma and Appearance were different stats. Appearance affects how attractive a character is, and Charisma is how much others will like a character. MC said there must be something to it, because he's been developing well so far. Besides, he'll soon reach level 10 in the game. When Zephyr and Locke reach level 10, their unique skills, Scion of Darkness and Chosen One, improve by 1 level. Chatra asked if he also reached level 10. Would one of his skills improve as well? Korik looked into the tent and said, Prince, everything is ready. Are they leaving? MC turned around and answered, yes. Korik said, he's in the mood today. Did something good happen? Shutra answered, no, not really. He went out to the orcs and said, okay, it's time to move. After some time inside the cave, the orcs and wolves were moving forward. The demons entered the hall with the portal and Chris asked, have they finished the investigation? The wolf answered, yes. As he said, this portal is connected to the Eska River in the Gishkov Mountains. Chris asked, does that mean it works? The wolf answered, yes, and it's strong, which is typical for dwarves. Chris said, then they're going. The wolves activated the portal, and MC thought he can't believe he's seeing the gate in person. Caitlin turned around and asked, what is he waiting for? Shut answered, yes, he's coming. They entered the portal and were transported to the mountain. Chris said, good. As they expected, the camp is here. Judging by their size, there are about 5,000 of them. If they attack from the rear, they can gain the advantage. If General Bandao starts attacking from the front to distract them, then their spies will burn their supplies. Sarah said, but something is wrong. There are too few people in the camp. Chris said she is right. Where did they go? Maybe they have already started attacking. MC looked to the side and asked, what is that? It sounds like the sounds of battle. Chris said, Shutra, have him focus his aura on his eyes. Shut asked, oh? He frowned and said, he sees. Caitlin asked, it looks like the Crimson Light tribe is on one side, but who are the others? Chris replied, they are not General Bandal's people. No fighting was planned. MC said, besides, the fight is not small. He saw a girl and asked, are there dark elves? Caitlin asked again, what? He said, dark elves? Shut answered, yes, they are smaller and fight on dragons. She asked again, on dragons? Chris said, they are retreating. Their commander has fallen. They are retreating very quickly. Carrick asked, what is going on here? Is the battle over? Shut wondered what the dark elves were doing here. After some time, they contacted Bandao, who said he heard they found a dwarven portal as expected of Prince Chris. But let him tell me, how did he know it was there? Chris answered, it was not he who found it, but the 9th prince. MC replied, he was just lucky. He thought about General Bandao. He was surprisingly pleased to see him again. Bandao asked, yes, he will be properly rewarded at the Demon King's castle. Chris said, there was a fight in front of the Crimson Light tribe's camp today. Does he know anything? Bandao replied, most likely it was the Dark Elves. Apparently, they decided to intervene themselves. Chris asked, but why are the elves fighting the Crimson Light tribe? Isn't this reinforcements from the Demon King's castle? Bandao replied, it's hard for him to say. Apparently, they were planning to conduct reconnaissance before intervening. But something must have gone wrong, Chris asked. What? Bandao replied, he thinks the Dark Elf leader's independent squad was captured by the Crimson Light tribe. Chris asked, so that's why there was a fight. MC stepped forward and asked them to stop. And who commands the independent squad? Bandao replied, they know her very well. The 6th princess, Felicia Doomblade, their sister. The 6th princess, Felicia Doomblade. She is the daughter of Sylvia Doomblade, the 3rd queen and princess of the Dark Elves and the twin sister of the 5th prince, Sylvan Doomblade. In the game, Felicia and Sylvan belonged to the faction of the 4th princess, Anastasia Necrian. Therefore, he considered them enemies. What is Felicia doing here? Did she intervene to prove her merits? Chris asked, did the idiots from the Crimson Light tribe even realize it was Felicia? Bandao asked, who knows? They haven't been able to confirm it yet. Chris asked, what will they do? Bandao replied, if they can, they will save her. Chris asked, without negotiations? Bandao replied, if they act first, they could try to talk, but he is not going to bow first. Chris answered, understood. Bandao said he will gather more information from the other side. If anything, he will contact them. Chris answered, okay, they understand. He thought for a moment and said that he thought their unrivaled sister had been taken hostage. Caitlin said that they needed to save her if she was still alive. Chris replied that it would be nice, but it simply wouldn't work. If they tried to save her, they could get hurt themselves. Caitlin screamed, no, they will save her. They have to. She's their sister. Chris frowned and said he knows, but MC looked at him questioningly. After a while, the wolves were standing near the tents in the camp, and the demons were inside the tent. Chris said the plan was simple. When General Bandao attracts the main forces of the Crimson Light tribe, they will strike the camp from the rear. Then he will head straight for the center of the base and cause as much chaos as possible. Caitlin and Chutra, each of them will have their own squad for the task. MC asked, is the task to save their sister? Chris answered, yes. First, they will burn their supplies and weapons, and then they will save Felicia. But if danger arises, they need to retreat immediately. They can't afford to lose more lives for Felicia. Caitlin screamed in displeasure. Brother, he replied quieter. Is a commander, she screamed. Felicia, she's their family. How can he say that? Chris replied. They can't let Felicia's carelessness interfere with the entire operation, MC thought. What is going on? Chris is in no hurry to save Felicia. Did something happen between them? After a while, a loud order was heard. Forward, warriors. They will destroy the idiots from the Crimson Light tribe. Chris looked out from the mountain and looked at the enemy camp. He frowned, and at that moment, a strike was fired at them. Bandao ran forward and ordered to kill them in the Shutra squad. At that moment, Carrick said, the attack has begun. Why are they standing? MC replied, they are waiting for the signal. At that moment, the remaining orcs were fighting when suddenly a cry was heard. Now it's time. They are all retreating. Chris looked at the wolves and told everyone to get ready. They are moving. They will do everything exactly according to plan. Forward. They quickly rushed to the attack and began to strike. Caitlin told Shutter to be careful. He said, and she should be careful. He opened the map and shouted, to the left to the ammunition depot. Kurak answered, yes. He ordered to kill them. He attacked the orc, but he swung his fist. MC quickly attacked him, and the system window reported, Level 1 dagger throwing. He can throw daggers at the target. He smirked, and Carrick asked, Prince, has he learned to throw daggers? Shut answered, it's nothing. Let them go quickly. He thought, yesterday he tried throwing daggers and got the skill. Carrick said, it looks like there's a warehouse there. They just need to set it on fire. MC answered, exactly. They continue. He wondered, what about Felicia? If she is there, she can burn. He said, first, they need to find Felicia. Carrick asked, how will he find her? MC asked to wait. He looked at the system window and thought, Felicia should be a neutral NPC for him, so she will be marked in blue or purple. He shouted, here, Carrick. The orc answered, he is coming. A moment later, he burst into the tent and thought, it must be here. But where is Felicia? He heard a voice from his side. Shutra. Felicia was kneeling and bound with chains. She asked in surprise, Shutra, what is he doing here? MC approached her and began to untie the chain. He said, they will talk later. No need to twitch. It is dangerous here. He needs to untie her and run. He thought it would be useful if Felicia was in his debt. Felicia turned around and looked at him. After a while, they left the tent, and Shutra said, they got out. She needs to run quickly to Chris and Caitlin. Felicia asked, Chris and Caitlin are here. Have they come to save her? MC replied, of course. Why else? How could they not save her? Felicia replied, simple. Shut. He was long written off in the power struggle, so she doesn't know. Carrick interrupted her and shouted loudly, Prince, they're coming. MC ran forward and said, Felicia, come here. She replied, okay. She asked to wait. When did he start calling her by name? She looked at him and shouted, Shutra from behind. MC turned around and widened his eyes in surprise as mana pierced his body. He screamed, and then a bright flame erupted. Felicia screamed. She spoke Chaitra. An orc appeared next to her and screamed loudly, and she tried to fight it off. Mana flew into the monster's head, and Felicia turned around and asked, what is that? The system window reported that the skill Mana Control Level 1 was acquired. MC smiled, and another system window reported that the skill Fire Arrow Level 1 was acquired. Shut attacked a few more orcs and laughed joyfully. He screamed, wow, real magic. Only Level 1, but already cool. He turned around and saw Ice. He asked Ice. MC looked up and saw an orc archer knocking an arrow. He thought with fear he was aiming at Felicia. Felicia asked Shutra, is he okay? MC pushed her away and ordered her to stay back. She widened her eyes in surprise and asked, Shutra. Ice arrows were aimed at him, and he thought because they were for him. There was another explosion, and the system window reported that the skill Ice Arrow Level 1 was acquired. MC laughed and said, I knew it. Suddenly, he felt worse, and the system window reported health level 13 out of 95. Health has dropped sharply. He's in great danger. Chitra said, nightmare health. He thought, one more hit. And Felicia said, he's an idiot. MC asked Felicia. She frowned and asked, who asked him to save her? MC thought, what? Felicia folded her arms across her chest and said, he is the weakest among the brothers and sisters. Who else needs saving? Shut thought. He thinks Felicia misunderstood something. MC thought, what? Felicia looked at the dead orc and asked when he mastered magic. MC thought she also knocked out the mage. She thought he was saving her. Felicia pulled the ice arrow from his body and began healing. The wound on his body quickly healed, and the system window reported the skill level 1 healing has been acquired. MC looked at it in surprise and thought the wound has healed. Here she is, the brilliant magician Felicia Doomblade. She asked, is he feeling better? Can he walk? Shut answered, yes. Thanks to her, the bleeding stopped. Felicia asked, what blood? MC answered, no, that is. They turned around and saw a huge orc running towards them and screaming loudly. Felicia asked, what's going on? Shut answered, it's a blood ogre, one of the mutated species. Felicia asked, what does that mean? They need to deal with it. MC answered, well, yeah. They started running away from the huge creature. And MC fearfully thought, how should they fight it? The ogre swung his fist, and Shutra asked, what the hell? Why is it so fast? Felicia asked Shutra to try to buy them time. She will blow it away with magic. MC asked, how should he do that? They jumped from the ogre's blow, and Chatra screamed loudly. He said, okay, he'll make him angry somehow, and she needs to get ready. Felicia asked, will he make him angry? How so? MC replied, it doesn't matter. He screamed, Karak, where is he? Karak replied, here. Shut offered him the same as last time. He needs to get ready. Carrick screamed loudly in response. Shutra opened the system window and asked, now he can use the dwarfen blade, right? He took it in his hand and stuck it into the ground. He screamed loudly under the royal banner. Mana rushed towards Carrick and covered his body. Carrick screamed loudly from a surge of strength and rushed to attack. The ogre looked at him in surprise, and Carrick swung his axe and struck. Felicia crept up behind the monster, put her hands forward, and screamed, fat. A greasy puddle appeared under the monster's feet, and it fell to the ground. Carrick swung his weapon and screamed, this is the end. He landed on top of the orc's body and delivered another kick to the stomach. MC laughed and happily said, they won. He thought there were a couple of opponents left, but they had dealt with the most problematic ones. His body was covered in a bright light, and the system window reported that his level had increased to 10. He thought, finally, level 10. The system window reported that the protagonist customization level had increased. Shut said, wonderful. The system window reported that thanks to the effect of the level 2 protagonist customization, a new passive skill had been added. MC asked, will he open the gift? Battlefield defense is level 1. The accuracy of thrown weapons aimed at the protagonist decreases slightly. Shut happily said, that's it. He thought it was the Stormtrooper effect. Everyone has seen something like this at least once. Bullets fly like a hail, but somehow not a single one hits the protagonist. With this skill, he will be able to create the effect of plot armor for the main character. Many orcs came running at the noise, and Felicia screamed, Shutra, what is he doing? They'll be blown away. MC answered, exactly. Felicia waved her hand and screamed, wind, whirlwind, and fury. MC looked at it in surprise and thought it looks like magic, but it's not it. Spirit, it's definitely spirit. Broken or not, dark elf, it's still an elf. Felicia, she's not just a beautiful mage. She was born a spirit summoner. MC asked, but can't he be hit by something like that? Carrick asked, Prince, what is this fire? MC answered, yellow means retreat. Carrick asked again, retreat. Shutter wondered, what's going on? Is someone in danger? Carrick asked, Prince, what will he order? MC answered, Carrick, let him take the troops and leave. He's going to Caitlin. Carrick asked, what then? He's with him. Shutra adjusted his sleeves and replied, he didn't just order them to leave. Let him do as he said. Carrick said, but at that moment Felicia intervened in the conversation, saying that she would go with Shutra. Carrick said Felicia said she didn't want to remain in debt, and she wanted to return the favor. Besides, she wasn't finished with these pigs yet. Carrick looked at her carefully and asked them to be careful then. Shut said, okay, see you later. Bishia asked, did they really have to go to Caitlin? MC replied, unknown. And also this signal Bishia asked, he didn't think she could lose like that. Did he? Shutra said, fine, if not, then they would just all go back together. Felicia asked, was he worried about Caitlin? Shutra answered, of course, she was his sister. He thought, in fact, it was because they were allies. Felicia looked at him thoughtfully and repeated, of course. At that moment, Caitlin was fighting the orcs and quickly moving forward. She blew them up, and the other orcs screamed loudly. The orcs swung his weapon, but she jumped back and thrust her hand forward. MC and Felicia stood behind and watched what was happening. Felicia smiled and said she knew it. MC thought, there's no need to worry. Caitlin turned around and asked, Shutra, why didn't they retreat? MC answered, well, they came to help, but she doesn't need it. Caitlin asked, what do you mean? She happily threw herself on Felicia's neck and screamed, Felicia, how glad she is that she's okay. Felicia answered slightly embarrassedly, of course, she's okay, and she's worrying too much. Shutter looked at them happily and thought, apparently, they're close. A map appeared in front of him, and he said, the enemies are returning. They need to leave. The girls told him to lead, and they will cover. He replied, okay. After a while, they returned to the hall with the portal. Felicia folded her arms and asked, did Shutra find the portal? Caitlin replied, yes. He made a huge contribution to the conquest. Felicia said, strange. When did he change so much? Chris said they're back. Caitlin cried out joyfully, brother, she brought Felicia. She turned around and said, Chris, they haven't seen each other for a long time. Chris frowned and replied, yes, Felicia. After a while, he said he heard General Bandal was victorious, too. Apparently, that idiot Yakazan surrendered after seeing the fire. MC asked again. Yakazan, Caitlin said. It's the commander-in-chief of the Crimson Light Tribe. Did he forget? Felicia asked, so you couldn't surrender? Chris replied, not quite. It looks like he just ran away. He'll be able to fight again if he gathers allies. Tomorrow, they'll strike at Kair, Kaichin's older brother. If he gets involved with the Yakazans, they'll be in trouble. Okay, enough chatter. How did she end up there? Felicia looked down and said she was exploring the ruins nearby. She heard about the battle and decided to help. Chris asked again, is it true? Felicia asked, why would she lie? They exchanged glances, and then Chris turned away and said, she's probably tired. It's time for them to finish. Everyone needs to rest. Caitlin replied, okay. He tried hard, bro. Felicia bowed her head silently. After a while, the army was eating dinner, and MC sat to the side, observing the skills he had acquired. He said thoughtfully, he enjoyed watching. Apparently, in battle, he can only use aura. Felicia called out to Shutra and asked, can she? MC asked again, Felicia, did she change her clothes? What's wrong? She walked up to him and said, Shutra. She pulled him close and asked, can he undress? MC asked confusedly, what, her outfit? But why? Felicia asked, he wants her to heal him, right? Shatra looked at her puzzled, and she said it was only first aid back then. She started healing and said he might have internal wounds, so now she'll cast a normal spell on him. Shut thought he was expecting something a little different. Felicia said, by the way, he was glowing. Something wrong? MC replied, no, that just happens. She asked again, does that happen? Shut said he had a favor to ask. Felicia asked a favor? MC replied yes. A favor that only she, Felicia, can fulfill. After a while, the system windows reported, first level healing removes the damage status. First level poisoning cure removes the poisoning status. First level disease cure removes the disease status. Shut smiled and thought, that's not bad. Felicia agreed to his request, and he would receive 3 new healing spells. Some time ago, Felicia was healing MC, and the system windows reported that the skills of healing, curing poisoning, and curing diseases have been acquired. Shut thought. And today, too, Caitlin said as he knows, there are several schools of hand-to-hand combat. MC thought, finally, he will learn hand-to-hand combat, Caitlin said. Today, they will learn the beast technique. Beast hand-to-hand combat is a martial art representing lycanthropes. Beast hand-to-hand combat technique is the basis of the beast god's hand-to-hand combat technique. Apparently, that's why Caitlin decided to teach it to him. Caitlin smiled and said, beast technique uses the internal and external aura. Today, she will teach him the basics of handling the internal aura. Shut up replied, he understood. She told him to close his eyes and focus on the aura. MC closed his eyes and thought he feels aura, the power of life closest to the power of the soul. When it reaches the limit, it becomes the power of the soul. After a while, Shutra opened his eyes and saw the system window. It reported that he had received a passive skill, the first level protagonist constitution. This greatly increases the efficiency of learning physical skills. As the skill levels up, the corresponding traits will be unlocked. MC asked, protagonist constitution? He thought, what is this? Is this another bonus? He remembered the skills, protagonist constitution, archmage's constitution, and hero's blood, and thought, these are the passive abilities of Zephyr and Locke. And the fact that new traits are unlocked at each level means that with new levels, the system adds completely new functions. Shutra smirked and thought, so this is what it's like to be the protagonist. Cool. This is very cool. Caitlin called out to Shutra and asked what he was doing. He needs to focus. He asked her to forgive him. Caitlin said, now they will begin training. MC said he is ready. He was covered in mana, and the system window reported that he had acquired the skill Beast Melee Level 1. Caitlin said that he had mastered the basics so quickly it was impressive. Shut thought it was as if he was holding a deadly weapon, although his hands were empty. Caitlin turned and said, okay, Shutra, they will move on to the next technique. A wolf ran into the cave and shouted, Princess. Urgently, Chris frowned and said, Kim and LT, Unk and GT, as troops have disappeared. Caitlin asked, what? He replied, it looks like that idiot understood their plan. Caitlin asked, so what should they do now? Chris pointed to a flag on the map and said, according to General Bandle's intelligence, Yakuzan and Kairam should meet here. Given the terrain, that's quite likely. Shut said, then they will launch a decisive attack. Chris smiled and said, they will unite with General Bandal. They will wage an all-out war against the Crimson Light Tribe. The Crimson Light Tribe, the headquarters of the subjugation forces. Bandal said, Prince Chris, he has come a long way. Chris smiled and said, he hasn't changed a bit. They haven't seen each other for a long time. General Bandal. He looked away and said, it's true. He hasn't seen her for a long time either, Princess. How is she doing? Felicia said, stop chatting. How are her subordinates? Bandal replied, no need to worry. They are fine. MC smiled and thought he used it the most in the game. That's why he is so familiar with it. He approached Bandal and extended his hand and said, nice to meet you, Bandal. He is Shutra. Bandal looked at him incredulously and extended his finger. He said reciprocally, the 9th Prince Shutra. Suddenly, images of girls appeared in front of MC, one with different eyes and the other with red hair. Conquestwa. Shut woke up and asked, "Is this a dream?" He thought he has definitely seen this girl before. But who is that woman in red? Karak looked into the tent and said, "Prince, hurry. They are moving." MC replied, "Okay." They walked outside, and MC thought in this battle he was assigned to the left flank. Bandao commanded the center, and Chris and Caitlin commanded the right flank. The Dark Elves united to protect the rear. The march began, and before he knew it, he found himself in the middle of the battlefield, surrounded by thousands. Bandao frowned and ordered everyone to line up. He offered to show these idiots what pain was. He swung his axe and shouted, "Forward!" The fighters ran forward, and the orc laughed and said, "Idiots!" There was a bright explosion, and Bandal turned around and asked, "What?" He saw a huge creature and asked, "A swamp mammoth?" The creature began to quickly attack the fighters, throwing them in different directions, MC said in surprise. So, they knew everything from the start. A swamp mammoth. From its name, it's clear that it resembles a mammoth, but it can't compare to a regular mammoth. It's the embodiment of ugliness. The lizard man stepped forward, clutching swords in their paws. Shoot and thought, and the lizard man too. Chris frowned and said, "Oh my God, so they knew everything and were just playing with them." Caitlin screamed, "Brother." She thinks they should retreat and look for other options. Chris asked, "What?" But if they can't retreat, they'll suffer even more. They might all be killed. Caitlin said that if this continues, there will only be more losses. We need to decide. It's time to retreat. Chris ordered everyone to listen to him. Mages, they must create a defense in the rear and hold out as long as they can. The rest, let them prepare to retreat. The lizard men began to fight the orcs, and one of them rushed towards Shutra. He got scared, and Carrick quickly attacked the monster from behind. He ordered MC to come to his senses. One wrong move, and they will all be finished. MC answered, "Exactly." He thought Carrick was right. This is not a game. Chris hit the orc with his elbow and ordered everyone to return alive no matter what. Don't dare die. After some time, the elves in the camp were healing the warriors, and Chris stood over the map and said, "It was he who overlooked it. He should have suspected." Bandal folded his arms across his chest and replied that what's done is done. Now they can either retreat or ask for reinforcements from the Demon King's castle. Chris frowned and said, "Apparently yes." He can't allow his subjects to die because of his pride. That Felicia raised her hand and asked him to wait, thinking for a moment. She had come to this area primarily to inspect the ruins, and the final destination was the peak of the Gishkov Mountains. MC thought Felicia might be an outstanding mage, but even in the game, she wasn't a fighter. Her skills were focused on exploration. Felicia said she'd been studying the ruins for a long time. The lair of the stone dragon Enkidu had been in these mountains for 1,500 years. Enkidu, a dragon born from magma, had attracted various guardians to protect his lair and treasures. Among the guardians were also dwarves who had once lived in the Gishkov Mountains. Enkidu had given them weapons to protect the lair. Chris asked again, "Weapons?" Felicia replied, "And an anvil that generates thunder, a relic that allows not only control over the chimeras created to serve the guardians, but also cast spells on an entire army. If they want to win, this is their only option. That's what she came here to look for." Bandal said, "Then does she know the exact location of this anvil?" Felicia replied, "No, that's all she knows." Chris frowned and said, "Well, that's not very useful information. They don't know when the enemy will strike again. At a time like this, they can't risk everyone's lives on a foolish treasure hunt." Felicia screamed, "What, Chris?" MC said, "The anvil that generates thunder is definitely here." Everyone asked and surprised Shutra. He thought, that's right. When he played as the hero Locke, he encountered this. He said he also discovered a related story when he was studying dwarven runes. And besides, he trusted Felicia. She said Shutra. He thought, it's time for him to earn points. Chris frowned and said, "Shutra, it's not about trust. If they waste their time," MC thought, terrible. Well, Chris is so stubborn. He pointed his finger at the mountains and said, "There is a similar legend in the Gandharva tribe." He thought if that's the case, he said the chances that the entrance to the ruins is somewhere nearby are high. If he goes to reconnoit the territory, he will definitely find it. He takes responsibility for everything that can happen if he fails. Just this once he asks. Believe him, he thought. It's time to go for broke. After a while, they were all racing through the sky on phantom steeds, flying horses summoned by Felicia. Shut thought, well, at least they were able to knock out the right to search for the anvil. All that remains now. Carrot turned around and screamed, "This is madness, Prince. Let him hold on tight. He might fall." MC told him not to worry. He thought he won't fall. When he played Zephyr, he drove like this all the time. He opened the map and thought, at this speed, they should be at the entrance in about an hour. And with his mini map, it wouldn't be hard to find the ruins themselves. The problem was, how should he direct them so it looked natural? He frowned thoughtfully and thought, okay, he still had a whole hour. He'd think of something. After a while, Chitra said when he activated the portal, he carefully studied the tunnel maps. They had a certain pattern. If he combined this terrain with the position of the tunnels, he thought he could roughly determine where the anvil was. He thought, did it work? Karak and Caitlin looked at him in surprise. And then everyone asked, what did he just say? What did that mean? Shut laughed fearfully and thought, nightmare. Let them just ignore and not pay attention. Felicia said, let him lead, Shutra. He turned around and asked, Felicia? She said, she understood everything, so let him lead. He smiled and thought he was just bluffing, but did that explanation really work? He said, okay, everyone follow him. Felicia frowned. And after a while, Carrick said, they followed the prince, but there's a dead end here. Are you sure they're going the right way? This doesn't look like an entrance at all. Shut laughed and asked, who said they were heading for the entrance? Carrick looked at him questioningly, and MC asked, Caitlin, will she be able to break through this rubble? She looked at it and asked, will she? MC said, yes, let her hit it hard. Caitlin smiled and said, okay, she'll try. Felicia asked only not to tell that the anvil that gives birth to thunder is inside the rock. Shut smiled and said, well, according to his calculations, if they break through this ruin, they won't have to deal with the dungeon's guards. So, what if Caitlin breaks down this wall? Felicia cried out in displeasure. Idiot. How does he think she'll smash it with her bare hands? He thinks Caitlin is some kind of battering ram. MC asked thoughtfully, how then? Felicia created a stream of mana and said, ruin explorers always have an additional specialty in destruction and explosives. Does he know? She directed mana forward, after which there was an explosion. Rocks flew in all directions and Felicia said, it can't be. Did they really find it that quickly? What is this dome? Is that thunder thing inside? Shut answered yes. It looks like this is the last defense. There's an anvil inside. Karak asked, so what? They'll just break it. MC answered, no, that's not possible. So they can damage the anvil. There must be a mechanism that will open it. Felicia looked to the side and asked, don't they think these statues look strange? Out of the 9, only 3 hold weapons and the other 6 don't. Caitlin said, she's right. Then maybe they should give weapons to the remaining statues. Felicia replied, she doesn't think it's that simple. The weapons of these statues are made by dwarves. This means that the other statues need the same weapons. Caitlin asked, dwarven swords? Where will they get those? Are there more? Shutter said about that. It turns out that he just happens to have 6 of those. Felicia turned around and screamed, what? MC thought he couldn't use it since his level wasn't high enough, so he kept it in his inventory. He never would have thought that they would come in handy in a situation like this. What luck for him. He said he picked it up just in case when they were exploring those tunnels. Carrick asked, when did he even and how did he manage to fit 6 of them in his bag? Chatra thought he didn't like smart orcs like him. He laughed and asked, what difference did it make? Anyway, Carrick, they're heavy. Let him hurry and take it. Carrick said, well, he's so fragile. Let him give it here. They placed the swords in the golem's hands, after which a bright glow illuminated the hall. Someone said to look, the dome is opening. MC asked, is it the anvil that generates thunder? Felicia asked to wait. Judging by the records, there's one more thing that needs to be done to activate the anvil. MC asked, one more thing? Felicia ordered Shatra and Karak to remain in place. The rest need to take positions at 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 9 o'clock around the disc. Then they will pour mana into the disc. They will start with it and go clockwise. Gradually, the amount of poured mana should increase. She released mana and told them to focus. They were starting. Everyone was releasing mana towards the anvil, and Felicia ordered Shutra to increase the mana flow. He replied, he understood. She said, okay, keep it up. You can't lose concentration. Mana covered the anvil. When suddenly there was a bright explosion, a stream of mana burst out of the cave. MC looked around and saw many dwarves around and a dragon. He asked, what is it? A voice rang out his vassals. Let them heed his words. MC thought, the voice from somewhere above. He saw a dragon. He must protect the nest of the great Enkidu. Become a guard who will stand between the kingdom of demons and the kingdom of people. MC woke up in fear and widened his eyes. Chutra thought it was definitely a black dragon, the stone dragon of Enkidu. Felicia asked, did he see it too, Shutra? A huge black dragon and lava flowed through its veins. Kara grabbed his head and said, he saw it too, this dragon. So they all had the same vision. Felicia answered, it seems so. She is not sure what it means yet. She turned around and looked at the anvil and said, but one thing is certain. Using the anvil, they will find out the truth. She touched it with her hand, and suddenly dark mana appeared. It headed toward her, and she screamed. MC screamed, "Felicia, make her stop." He extended his hand and screamed loudly. Caitlin screamed in fear. "Shatra, Felicia!" Carrick screamed, "Prince!" MC screamed loudly as mana rushed into his body. Subjugation, the mana of the stone dragon. Enkidu, his trial befalls those who have not been granted permission. Subjugation is the manifestation of power. After a while, Shutra was kneeling on the floor holding a black energy hammer. Someone asked, "Shutra." At that moment, an orc was watching the camp through a monocular and laughing. He asked, "Are they idiots? Do they think that if they hid here, they wouldn't be found? What will they do? Will they attack immediately? Let him just give the order." Lord Yakazan, the commander-in-chief of the Crimson Light tribe. Yakazan turned around and ordered everyone to get ready. They will destroy those who are still left. The orcs raised their heads and saw fiery projectiles flying towards them. Explosions occurred in the enemy along with the mammoths headed towards the orcs. Chris frowned and said, "Nightmare. Neither Caitlin nor Felicia are here now. They will all be destroyed at this rate." Yakajin watched the battle and laughed. He said, "Stupid demons. They went where they shouldn't, and this is the result. Serve them right now. They will finish off the rest. Kill them all." The mage extended his hand forward and asked, puzzled why his hand wasn't moving. The mammoth's eyes changed, and the creatures went into battle with their own kind. Yakujin cried out in confusion, What's going on? Why are they attacking them?" Chris looked at it and said, "It can't be. Did they find an anvil?" At that moment, Chutra was kneeling and holding a hammer in his hands. He asked, "What is it?" Felicia said, "It's a thunder hammer in addition to the anvil. It looks like Enkidu has chosen him." MC asked again. Felicia shouted, "What?" "He's standing up. Let him use it." Shutter looked at the hammer thoughtfully and thought Enkidu's mana showed him how to wield it. To conquer, to subjugate, and to force obedience. Subjugation is a manifestation of power, the method of using the anvil that gives birth to thunder. Shut swung it and said, "He'll start with the swamp mammoths." The mana shot into the air and infused itself into the mammoth's body. Blows began to fall everywhere and the monster screamed. "What's going on? Why did they suddenly start attacking them?" The orc turned around when suddenly Bandal attacked him and said, "Judging by the way, the swamp mammoths are attacking the Crimson Light tribe. It seems to him that the prince and princess have succeeded after all. It's time to kill them all." He ordered that no one be allowed to escape. The monsters were fighting, and Yakujan stood on the cliff and asked, "What the hell? Why were the swamp mammoths acting like this?" The orc replied, "He doesn't know who could possess so much mana. They should retreat now and wait for another chance." Yakujan cried out, "What?" At that moment, Chris landed next to them and said, "It looks like they're finished. If they surrender, he promises them a quick death." Yakujan cried out, "Idiot." He swung his weapon and shouted, "He'll tear him to pieces." Chris used the beast god's hand-to-hand combat art and charged. The orcs began to scatter and shout. "The chieftain is dead. Lord Yakujan has been killed. We have to run." Chris wiped the blood from his hand and said, "Now he just needs to deal with the rest." He imagined Shutra and Felicia and thought if it weren't for those two, they would be in serious trouble. He hoped nothing had happened to them. At that moment, Carrick was looking at what was happening through the screen and saying, "Come on, is this really what the swamp mammoths are seeing right now?" Vicious said, "Yeah, with the anvil, it's possible to control all the treasure guardians. In any case, with the anvil, the Crimson Light tribe," she whispered, "it will." She was pulled to the side, and Caitlin barely managed to catch her. She screamed in fear. "Felicia, how is she?" Carrick screamed. "Princess Felicia, is she okay?" She asked, "Not to worry. She just needs to rest a little, and she'll be fine." Sarah said, "Okay." She suggested, quickly finding a place for Felicia looked around and asked Shutra. After a while, MC said he can finally rest. The system window reported several times his level has increased. He looked at it and asked, "His level has increased very much, right? Is it because he controlled Ankitu's relic?" The system window reported that the conquest level had increased. MC asked, "What is this?" He looked at the skills and said in surprise, "Even under the royal banner had improved," he thought. So both this level and the conquest level, he didn't fully understand it. But if his main skill was getting stronger, that was only a plus for him. Asked, "And what kind of skill is that King's Knight's judging by the name?" It seemed to be a summoning type of shout. Was her behind him? He turned around and asked. Caitlin MC ruffled his hair and said, "Exactly." He left without saying a word. "Right." Caitlin punched him in the head and screamed. Seriously, what was he thinking? Disappearing so suddenly, Shutra. He asked for forgiveness. Caitlin said, "Okay, enough about him being fine, but it's time to go back. It looks like they'll have to camp here for the night." Shut asked, "Aren't they going straight back?" Caitlin replied. That was the original plan, but a problem arose. MC asked, what problem? Caitlin replied. Felicia had lost consciousness. They returned to the cave, and she said she had just escaped the captivity of the Crimson Light tribe, but apparently she had overexerted herself too much. Before passing out, she said she just needed a rest, but she didn't know when she would wake up, and without her, they couldn't even summon a phantom mount. So, for now, they need to monitor her condition here. Shooter replied, okay, he thought. Felicia, will she be okay? After a while, everyone was asleep, and MC was sitting by the column, wondering if his stamina had really fully recovered just because he had leveled up. Strange, he didn't feel tired at all. He just needed to wait until morning. He looked at the door in surprise and thought. It only just now dawned on him. These are ruins, right? So, there must be hidden weapons and treasures in the dungeon. Of course, there will be traps and guards. Shut looked at the hammer and thought, but what if he is the lord of these ruins? The power of the anvil only works here, but it is in these ruins that it becomes absolute power. It turns out that he now has complete carte blanche over this entire place. He woke up Carrick and told him to go with him somewhere. After a while, they were walking through the dungeon, and Carrick asked if it was okay to just break in like that. What if something goes wrong? MC replied, he is the lord of this place. Why should he worry? Let him think carefully. These are ruins. There must be good weapons here. Carrick said, and indeed, he widened his eyes in surprise and said, Prince, there is a huge monster there, Shutra said. It is a guardian golem, and it is in the form of a griffin. Carrick asked again, is it a guardian golem? MC answered, yes, but he might think it was just an incredibly powerful monster. If they had just rushed in here thoughtlessly, they could have died right away. Carrick said, not to jinx it. He suggested they go already. Well, what a size. He would prefer not to fight such a monster. MC laughed and asked, Carrick, is he a coward, right? Carrick replied, he's just cautious. They went further, and Carrick shouted, Prince, they found treasure. He grabbed the armor and said to look, it's simply amazing armor. Shatra said, he's right. It looks very good. He looked around and thought he could feel a subtle mana. It's magic armor. He asked, Carrick, does he want to take it? Carrick happily asked, what is it really possible? MC replied, yes, it's still too big for him. Carrick said, thank you. Thank him so much, Prince. Shutter picked up a coin and asked, what is it? Ancient gold coins? First, it's better to put everything useful in your inventory. He turned around and told Carrick to grab anything worthwhile he could. He saw a chest and asked, what is it? MC walked up to it when he suddenly saw a door open to the side and asked, what's going on? A secret place? He happily said, it looks like there's definitely something there. Shut entered the room and said after passing through the corridor, they suddenly found themselves in a huge room. He heard a voice and said, it is. He thought he knows this mana. Even though it was the first time he saw it, the name just popped into his head. He said, Enkidu, this is Enkidu's gauntlet, the Shaker. The voice said, brave conquering knight. MC thought, Indu's gauntlet, the Shaker. The Shaker is calling him. He walked up to the gauntlet and tried to take it. The system window reported, insufficient level. Not enough mana. Not enough psychic power. Not enough strength. Shut asked what? He can't wear it yet. Suddenly, the gauntlet got rid of dark mana, and the voice reported, aloud. The system window reported, the Shaker recognizes him as its master. The user of the Shaker has been changed to Sutra. The gauntlet was put on MC's hand, and he cried out in surprise and frowned. He opened his eyes and asked, did it recognize him as its master? The system window reported strength, mana, and endurance increased by 10 points. Shutter said, amazing, he thought. He put it on, and the stats went up so much. Then once he gains a level, this is incredible. This is even better than he expected. The system window reported, this is Enkidu's glove. Carrick asked, Prince, what was that? MC turned around in fear and asked, Carrick, has he been here long? Carrick answered, he saw everything. The glove appeared out of nowhere. MC said, so he saw everything. He thought, a nightmare. If they find out about the inventory, there will be problems. Carrick asked, whatever it is, if people find out, there will be problems. Shut looked at him questioningly, and he said, not to worry. This will stay between them. He will take this secret with him to the grave. MC turned to Carrick, and he said, they collected everything they need. Are they going back? It's kind of creepy in here. He has a bad feeling. Shut said, yes, it's time to go back. They walked through the storage room when suddenly he screamed. Just a minute, Carrick? He asked, what this time? MC asked, can't he see? Carrick asked, what is he talking about? MC said, there's exactly what they need. After a while, he gave Felicia a potion and she regained consciousness. He smiled and asked Felicia, is she awake? She asked Shutra. Caitlin screamed. Thank God. Felicia asked, Caitlin, what happened? Caitlin wiped a tear from her eye and answered. Shuddered the man, a restoration potion. Felicia asked, where did it come from? Shut asked, did she forget where they were? Felicia said, the ruins. MC answered, exactly. Don't forget that he is the ruler of the ruins. No need to worry. Let her rest. When she wakes up, her mana will be fully restored. Felicia thanked him, and MC looked at her questioningly. She spoke shyly. She said, thank you. After a while, Vandal shouted, they are finally back. He knew the prince and princess would succeed. He laughed and said, they are great. Chris cleared his throat, and MC asked Chris. He cleared his throat again and said, that was impressive, Felicia. She shook her head and said, it's nothing. Shut smiled and thought, how heartwarming. Chris said to rest. They'll clean up. MC asked, what? Not over yet. Chris said, the Crimson Light tribe still remains. It will return in half a month at most. Shut answered, I see. So, they can rest for half a month. Caitlin said, no rest. MC asked, confused. What? Caitlin replied, they still have things to do. After a while, she punched him and screamed, Shutra, he needs to pull himself together or he'll get hurt. Come on, let him get up. MC lay on the ground and breathed. He thought he was ready, but this was too tough. Beast hand-to-hand combat training. Caitlin meant exactly training. For the first 5 days, it felt like he was being beaten. Only after a week did he begin to see Caitlin's blows. An 11th day of training came. MC got close to Caitlin, she said, and he's starting to get the hang of it. Chatra smiled and said, it's about time. After so many beatings. Perhaps it's all thanks to special training, but the beast's aura and hand-to-hand combat levels have increased to level 5. Caitlin said, good. Soon, he will be ready for the beast god's hand-to-hand combat art. MC asked again. Really? Caitlin answered. To be honest, she was impressed. She had never seen anyone learn so quickly. He smiled and thought, he will finally learn the secret technique of the Lycanthropes, the hand-to-hand combat art of the beast god. Caitlin took his hands and said, now she will teach him a new way to use aura. She ordered him not to miss anything and to listen carefully. Does he understand? Shut. He smiled and answered, yes. They joined hands and released mana. Shut thought, he can feel Caitlin's aura. She's guiding him. It's like beast melee combat, but a little different. He feels the depth of the aura more and more. Aura is life force. When it reaches its peak, it becomes like the power of a soul and conquest. To conquer and force submission, a ferocious, overwhelming force is needed. Is this aura? After some time, the system windows reported that the beast melee level had increased. The aura level had increased. Caitlin said, it's incredible. He did it. The system window reported that he had acquired the skill Beast God Melee Art, level 1. Shut looked at his hand and thought, Shaker and Beast God May Art. He clenched his fist and released mana. The system window reported that his level had increased, level 14. He said, yes, now it has definitely begun. At that moment, Vandal was watching them from behind the tree. The next morning, MC said, yes, can he ask about Felicia? Caitlin asked, what exactly? He asked, what's going on between her and Chris? He thought Felicia was supposed to be his key ally, just like Chris. But if their relationship is so strained, there could be problems. He said it wasn't that things were bad, but they were distant. Caitlin answered thoughtfully, well, it wasn't that anything had happened between them. MC asked, what then? She didn't know, but she thought it had something to do with Chris and Sylvan. MC asked again, Sylvan? Caitlin replied, he wasn't here, but there was no need to say his name so loudly. MC apologized. He was just surprised. He thought it was Felicia's twin, Sylvan Dumlade. When he played for Zephyr, he was quite a problem. Shut said that meant there was a conflict between Chris and Sylvan. At that moment, Chris entered the tent and said they were here. They looked at him in fear, and Shut said Chris. Caitlin asked, what happened? He's early. Chris told them to get ready. Everything went faster than they thought, so they're heading out today. Shooter asked where. Chris asked, was he seriously asking? Of course, to report that everything is ready. After a while, Bendal shook MC's hand and said, they've done a great job this time, princes and princesses. He looks forward to the day when they meet again. The 9th prince, Shut said. He does too, Bendal. Chris asked, are they coming? MC turned around and said, yes. Chris said, they're coming to the Demon King's castle. The Demon King was sitting in the hall at that time. The way back to the Demon King's castle is quite simple. First, you need to get to a teleportation circle capable of ultra, long-range spatial jumps, and then use transfer magic to get straight to the Demon King's castle. The estimated time to the nearest teleportation circle is 3 days. This journey didn't involve any stops in taverns at all. In other words, another night under the open sky lay ahead. MC said the Demon King's castle. To think they were arriving tomorrow made him a little nervous. Currently, the Demon King's castle was divided into 3 main factions. The second prince, Zephyr Ragnaros, the Demon King's second son and archenemy. The first prince, Bull Ragnaros, and the fourth princess, Anastasia Necrian. In the struggle for the throne, birth order didn't matter. The one who accumulated more achievements and was more capable would always occupy the highest position. That was their structure. BL and Zephyr were half-brothers, and their abilities were almost equal. They inherited the blood of their mother's lineage, the Dragon Clan, and as a result, both possessed immense power. Still, if they had to choose a successor, the calmer-tempered eldest son Bull would probably be the better choice. Shut said, not that the choice mattered at all, because after that day, everything would change. So, he had to be prepared for anything. First, he will level up until he can fully master the Overseer and make the most of his newfound power. He said King's Knights. The system window reported the skill King and LT, UNC and GT, S Knights has been activated. The Knightly Order has been created. Shatra looked at the system window with the skill description and said he thought it was just another summoning type skill. Maybe this is some kind of guild system. There are buffs, night training, even summoning. This is a broken skill. If it's so good at level 1, how strong will it become later? Carrick approached him and said, "So that's where he is?" He shouted in displeasure. "Why isn't he sleeping again, Prince? You need to sleep so you can leave early in the morning." He ordered him to go to bed quickly. Shurtra laughed and said, "Carrick, you're just in time. Does he want to conduct an experiment on him?" Carrick looked at him puzzled and asked, "What kind?" MC said, "The mighty orc warrior, Carrick." He placed his sword on his shoulder and said, "He hereby appoints him as his knight." Carrick was covered in mana and said in surprise, "Prince, such a strange feeling." He feels like his devotion has grown. The system window reported, Carrick is a level 24 knight commander, a first-rank private. MC smiled and replied, "Yes, that's exactly what he was talking about." Carrick said, "It's good that he's gotten stronger, but what's that even about?" Shatra put his hand on his shoulder and asked, "Carrick, doesn't he want to become the strongest orc in this world?" "Well, let him wait. He will raise him into the mightiest orc emperor in the Night Saga. Someone who can fight on equal terms, even with the dragon races. If his growth rate continues, then from now on," Carrick looked at him puzzled and asked, "Prince, is he feeling unwell?" After a while, they came to the teleporter and Chris asked, "Well, are they coming?" Shut said yes. They stepped on the teleportation field and began to move. MC's eyes widened in fear and asked to stop. He was flying through space when he suddenly landed. Caitlin asked, "Is he okay, Shutra?" He replied, "Yes, I'm fine." At that moment, a loud scream was heard. "Felicia!" The elves rushed towards her and shouted, "Felicia!" They were waiting for her. "She is beautiful as always, Lady Felicia." She smiled happily back at them, and MC said, "It feels like this is some kind of idol fan club. Are these her servants and subordinates?" The other characters said they were waiting for him. "Prince Chris, Lady Caitlin, she's become even more beautiful." Chris smiled and said, "They haven't seen each other for a long time. How are they doing?" Shutter laughed and asked, "So there is no one for him?" The elves looked at him and asked, "What? Seriously?" MC looked around and thought, now it's clear. This is roughly his position in the Demon King's castle. He exhaled and said, "Well, nothing." He expected this. "Is he ready, Carrick?" They are gradually starting to change everything. After a while, MC entered a room where everything was covered in trash and cobwebs. Carrick said he thinks they can settle here. Shut said, "Well, at least they found a room." "Thank goodness." Carrick said, "By the way, the official events start tomorrow. Until then, they can do whatever they want." MC said, "Whatever they want," he says. It feels like they've been left to rot. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door and a girl walked in. She said, "It's an honor to meet him, sir." She's Flora Seven's words from the Demon King's Castle Property Management Bureau. Shut asked, "The Property Management Bureau? What brought an employee from such an institution to this hole?" Flora said, "His public service level has risen, His Highness. He now has the right to choose a new residence." After a while, the girl said, "She's Isabella from the Public Service Department. She's come to meet His Highness." Shatra asked, "Can he really get a new residence?" Isabella said, "Yes, he's come to the right place. Thanks to his latest victory, His Highness's merit level has risen to level 5. System windows appeared in front of Shatra, the 9th prince of Shatrag Ignis. His total accumulated merits amounted to 15,000. Details of his participation in the extermination of the Crimson Light tribe were also presented. Isabella said that thanks to this, His Highness now has access to more facilities in the Demon King's castle, and his monthly allowance has been increased from 5 gold coins to 500. He is the first prince to achieve such a result in his very first mission. MC laughed and asked, really, then couldn't she show him the available residences right away? Isabella replied, of course. After a while, Carrick's eyes widened in surprise, and he said, Prince, and this is his new residence. They stood in front of the enormous castle looking at it. Flora approached them and said, they arrived earlier than expected. Carrick looked at her questioningly, and she replied, from this day on, she will serve him with honor. The system window reported, Maid Flora's seventh sword. She could be a butler or a headmaid. She is a follower of Camille, the goddess of dreams and shadows. Carrick asked, what's going on? Didn't she say she was from a real estate agency? MC replied, he hired her using his merit points. It's some kind of currency you earn for accumulating achievements. Well, that's how it works. No need to go into details. Carrick said, Prince, he's been talking nonsense lately. The next day, Carrick was standing in a suit and saying, Prince, he keeps feeling like he needs to go to the bathroom. Do you think it's just nerves? MC replied, disgusting. Let him go already. He's making him nervous with just this conversation. Caitlin walked into the room and said, they look amazing. Felicia smiled and asked who she thought chose the outfits. Caitlin screamed, Felicia, she's the best. She put her hand to her face and said, well, she guesses all her hard work paid off. Caitlin winked and said, he looks great, Shutra. It suits him very well. MC thanked her and said, they look great too. Caitlin fixed her hair and asked, is it really so? Thank you. Felicia said, of course. Chris asked, by the way, is this his first audience? Shut said Chris. He extended his fist to him and said, today he is a star. Let him show himself to everyone in the Demon King's castle. MC replied, yes, perhaps there are those who think he was just lucky, but soon everyone will turn their eyes on him. The demons gathered in the hall, and MC and his siblings entered the hall. MC thought they would take a new look at the worthless prince they once rejected. Chris Nelton said, the seventh prince, Chris Moonlight, he appears before the great ruler of the demon realm. Mitra, the demon king, sat in a chair and looked at them intently. The butler said, now they will report on the achievements of their princes and princesses. MC thought, Demon King Methra, the father of all the children of demon kings. He almost forgot. He is someone who should never be underestimated in the Demon King's castle. He tried to raise his head and thought, what is this pressure? He is just standing in front of him, and it feels like he is about to crumble. He felt the presence of the girl who said conquest, for he is also a king. He needs to cope with the gaze, the suffocating pressure, and he needs to bend them to his will, for such is the power of conquest. Sho was able to raise his head and look into Mitra's eyes. He addressed Shutra, which caused everyone to be very surprised. Mitra said he looks forward to his future achievements. The demons began to talk among themselves. What is even going on? His Majesty has never called any prince or princess by name during an audience before. Why would he mention the ninth prince who was hardly noticed? MC thought he said it completely casually, but this was a statement no one had ever heard from the Demon King before, and that made it priceless. Shatra said he would do his utmost to live up to his Majesty's expectations. And so he, Shutra Ignis, concluded his first audience, leaving a strong impression on everyone present. After a while, a cry rang out in the mansion. Prince, what does he wish for? Let him get up quickly. Shut asked, what happened? It's still so early. Kurak shouted. A letter from the Public Service Department just arrived. MC picked up the letter and asked Public Service Department why. He widened his eyes in surprise, and Carrick asked, what was it? Let him read it out loud. Shut asked, how should he feel about this? It seemed the Demon King himself, that is his father, had given him a personal mission. After a while, Chris looked at the letter and said, a mission to pacify the Cassius herd monster extermination. Then Caitlin asked, is he going to the Anger Plains? Shut asked again, the Anger Plains? Isn't that where the centaurs live? Caitlin answered, yes. She and Chris when there wants to train. Chris said that pacifying the Cassius herd has practically become an annual event. He would go with him, but they have their own schedule. Caitlin said, no matter. Shut can handle it himself. Chris said, but Shutra, people will start paying attention to him now. Some will try to get close to him. Others will be wary of him. You'll have to pay attention to a lot. MC thought he knows. Even Zephyr said that he was never called by name during the audience. Chris said that if he needed help, he should not hesitate to ask him. Shutra smiled and said, thank you, Chris. He said that before he left he needed to treat Felicia. She said that she had prepared something for him. MC asked in surprise for him. After some time, he came to Felicia, and she said that to travel through the territory of the centaurs he needed good legs. She put her hand on the lizard's body and said to take it. Shutra thanked Felicia. She said and more. MC said this. Felicia handed him a pendant, and he thought a dark elf tear. She was giving him one of the sacred relics of the dark elves. Usually you can only get it by killing Felicia herself. She said dark elves are proud people. They do not forget either good or revenge. She hugged him and told him to take care of himself and return safe and sound. Shutrai looked at her slightly embarrassed and thought she scared him. He never thought that Felicia could be like this. He said, "Okay, Felicia." Before he could finish speaking, she suddenly pushed him away and screamed nothing. Shut thought, well, she must have just realized how awkward it was. He waved and said, "Okay, he's off. Good luck and see you next time." They teleported and Felicia said, "Okay." After a while, they moved to the Anger Plains. Carrick asked, "Are they there yet?" Shut answered, "It seems so." A girl approached them and said she greets him, the ninth prince. She is Karma, the ranger assigned to be his guide. MC said, "I see. It's a pleasure to meet her." He is Shutra. He thought for a moment, the upper body of a man and the lower body of a beast. Karma said, in return, "Lord Shutra, it is a great honor for her." MC thought, a satyr. Then he suggested that they move on immediately. They quickly headed forward and Karma said, "It was at least 2 days' journey from here to the Centaur settlement. She plans to go with minimal stops. Is that okay with him?" MC answered, "No problem." Karma asked, "By the way, are there any other soldiers?" Shutter replied that the mission had come suddenly, so for now, it was just the two of them. Karma said that however they would have centaurs on their side, so there would be no numerical advantage. MC said that meant it would be a massive battle. Shutra thought that in that case the real problem would be weapons since it could turn into something like a mounted battle. Perhaps a spear would be best. Suddenly, he turned around and asked what that sound was. Karma said to wait, she would check. She quickly ran forward and looked around. She said, "It can't be a herd of Cass. How do they find them?" The monsters ran after the guy who turned around in fear and screamed. Suddenly MC appeared in front of him and attacked the Kasia. The centaur looked at him in surprise and Chatra said, "It looks like they decided to greet them early, but no matter." After all, he himself was eager to fight. He activated the gauntlet and ordered the creatures to attack. The guy asked, "Who is he? Is he a prince?" The Cass screamed loudly and rushed into battle. MC said, "Right, so it's the main one here." Karma rushed towards him and shouted, "Is he okay, your highness?" Carrick screamed, "You can't rush forward like that. It's dangerous." Shut screamed, "It's okay. Just let them watch." He pushed off the lizard's back and rushed into battle with Kasia. Shut decided to try out his martial art, which he had been practicing all this time. Kasia screamed loudly and MC activated the explosive fist. Everyone's eyes widened in surprise and Kasia died from one blow. The other Kasia saw this and ran away barking loudly. Chatra asked, "What is it?" he wondered. Did the concussion boost his aura? It was much more destructive than he expected. He smiled and said, "Almost at Caitlyn's level of power." Karma screamed joyfully, "Amazing, your highness. Take off Kasia's head with one blow." The centaur said in surprise, "Thank you so much for saving them, his highness." His name is Swiftwind, a scout sent to be his guide. From here, he will lead them to the centaur settlement on the Anger Plains. At that moment, Kasia's body was covered in mana as they were already leaving. After some time, they arrived at the Anger Plains, the centaur settlement. MC said, "They have finally arrived." For centaur tribes live on these plains. Furious wind, rainstorm, heavy night, and raging flame. Among them, the Raging Flame tribe is the most powerful. Its leader is also the supreme leader, uniting the other tribes. The centaur said, "The journey here must have been difficult. Welcome. He is Killing Gaze, the supreme leader of the centaurs." Killing Gaze. Anyone who played the Night Saga chapter, Demon Land, would recognize this name, as meeting him is inevitable, but not as an ally, but as an enemy. Carrick leaned toward MC and said, "He really does have a murderous gaze." MC said, "He is Chutra, the ninth prince." He would like to hear his assessment of the current situation. After some time inside the tent, Murderous Glare said, "To be honest, the situation is not the best. The Kasia, which by now should have been far north, descended south much earlier than usual this year. Therefore, right now, scouts are observing the territory. Although some speculate that part of the Kasia herd may have simply lost its way." Shut thought. In the game, Murderous Glare was an unrecruitable NPC. It was impossible to form an alliance with him. Murderous Glare said, "In 3 days, warriors from all 4 tribes will gather here. By uniting, they will be able to destroy the beasts wherever they are." MC thought, but perhaps this time everything will be different. He said, "I understand." Then he will wait. Something else. Murderous Glare said, "The ninth prince, is it true that he crushed Kasia's skull with one blow?" MC smirked and said, "It's true." He thought, perhaps Killing Glare could become an ally this time, too. Shutter extended his fist forward and said, "He can demonstrate later if he wants." He He